day to everyone. We are group number 2 presenting our topic about climate change. Before we proceed to our discussion, may I introduce to you first ourselves? Hi, I'm Eileen Elbasita, the group leader, and here are my group mates. Starting with
I'm Garcia Rainier Froilan.
I'm Yusalva Edna Belen.
I'm Nina Iris.
I'm Vergara Francis Yorkie.
climate change in the Philippines. The Philippines, like many other countries throughout the world, is currently experiencing climate change. Apparently, climate change is attributed largely to the increasing levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. For this reason, phenomena such as the rise of sea level, the frequency and intensity of heat waves, droughts and typhoons, as well as the alteration of agricultural, coastal, and marine ecosystem output and productivity are affecting greatly the life and properties of many. For instance, changes in rainfall pattern pushes people to migrate to higher elevations. Conversion of forests to agricultural lands increases greenhouse emissions. The rise of sea level floods coastal area resources such as mangroves and communities. The El Niño phenomenon reduces water availability and quality. From the perspective of greenhouse emissions, the Philippines is a minor emitter. However, emissions have been on the rise from both energy use and land use changes, with the latter as the major greenhouse gas or GHG contributor. As early as 1991, the Philippines began to respond to climate change through a series of policy and legal initiatives. Although it does not have any responsibility or commitment to reduce GHG emissions and is relatively a minor emitter, the Philippines nevertheless took an active role on the mitigation aspects of climate change, especially in the application of the Clean Development Mechanism. The government has created the Philippine Council for Sustainable Development or PCSD in response to its 1992 Earth Summit commitments. The Interagency Committee on Climate Change or IACCC was established a year earlier in 1991. The Presidential Task Force on Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation or PTFCC and the Advisory Council on Climate Change or ACCC were also formed in 2003. President Arroyo has made Green Philippines, which is also a chapter in the updated 2004 to 2010 Medium-Term Philippine Development Plan. Increasingly, the Philippines, both at the national and local levels, has begun to pay attention to the adaptation side of climate change by promoting climate change risk management initiatives.
What is climate change? Climate change is a change that attributed directly or indirectly to human activity that changes the composition of the global atmosphere and natural climate variability observed over a period of time. The truth is, the climate is changing each and every day. Climate change is caused by factors such as biotic processes, variations in solar radiation received by Earth, plate tectonics, and volcanic eruptions. Certain human activities have also been identified as significant causes of recent climate change, often referred to as global warming. What is global warming? Global warming refers to the current increase in temperature of Earth's surface, both land and water, as well as its atmosphere. Average temperature around the world have risen by 0.75 degrees Celsius over the last 100 years. About two-thirds of this increase has occurred since 1975. In the past, when the Earth experienced increases in temperature, it was the result of natural causes. But today, it is being caused by the accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere produced by human activities. Climate change indicators. Greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases from human activities are the most significant drivers of observed climate change since the mid-20th century. The indicators characterize emissions of the majority greenhouse gases resulting from human activities, the concentrations of these gases in the atmosphere, and how emissions, and concentration have changed over time. When comparing emissions of different gases, these indicators use the concept called global warming potential to convert amounts of other gases into carbon dioxide equivalents. Global greenhouse gas emissions. Worldwide, net emissions of greenhouse gases from human activities increased by 35% from 1990 to 2010. Emissions of carbon dioxide, which account for about three-fourths of total emissions, increased by 42% over this period. The majority of the world's emissions result from electricity generation, transportation, and other forms of energy production and use. Atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases. Concentrations of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere have increased since the beginning of the industrial era. Almost all of this increase is attributable to human activities. Climate forcing refers to a change in the Earth's energy balance, leading to either a warming or cooling effect over time. An increase in the atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases produces a positive climate forcing or warming effect. From 1990 to 2015, the total warming effect from greenhouse gases added by human to the Earth's atmosphere increased by 37%. The warming effect associated with carbon dioxide alone increased by 30%.
Causes of climate change. Natural factors of climate change may be caused by natural phenomena such as: first, volcanic eruptions. When a volcano erupts, it throws out large volumes of sulfur dioxide, water vapor, dust, and ash into the atmosphere. Large volumes of gases and ash can influence climatic patterns for years by increasing planetary reflectivity, causing atmospheric cooling. Second, ocean current. Ocean currents move vast amounts of heat across the planet. Winds push horizontally against the sea surface and drive ocean current patterns. Interactions between the ocean and atmosphere can also produce phenomena such as El Niño, which occurs every 2 to 6 years. Deep ocean circulation of cold water moves from the poles towards the equator, and movement of warm water from the equator back towards the poles. Without this movement, the poles would be colder and the equator warmer. Changes in ocean circulation may affect the climate through the movement of carbon dioxide into or out of the atmosphere. Third, Earth orbital changes. The Earth makes one full orbit around the Sun each year. It is tilted at an angle of 23.5 degrees to the perpendicular plane of its orbital path. Changes in the tilt of the Earth can lead to small but climatically important changes in the strength of the seasons. More tilt means warmer summers and colder winters. Less tilt means cooler summers and milder winters. Climate feedbacks amplify these small changes, thereby producing ice ages. Lastly, solar variations. The Sun is the source of energy for the Earth's climate system. Although the Sun's energy output appears constant from an everyday point of view, small changes over an extended period of time can lead to climate changes. Solar variations have performed a role in past climate changes. For instance, a decrease in solar activity was thought to have triggered a little ice age between approximately 1650 and 1850. When Greenland was largely cut off by ice from 1410 to the 720s and glaciers advanced in the Alps. Human factor. Climate change can also be caused by human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels and conversion of land for forestry and agriculture. In addition to other environmental impacts, these activities change the land surface and emit various substances to the atmosphere. This, in turn, can influence both the amount of incoming energy and the amount of outgoing energy, and can have both warming and cooling effects on the climate. The dominant product of fossil fuel combustion is carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas. The buildup of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has led to an enhancement of the natural greenhouse effect. It is this human-induced enhancement of the greenhouse effect that is concerned of, because ongoing emissions of greenhouse gases have the potential to warm the planet that levels have never been experienced in the history of human civilization.
Impacts of climate change. Climate change and its impacts are happening In particular, here are the effects of climate change. Extreme weather. Climate change causes a change in weather patterns, precipitation, sea level rise, and wildlife. A. Droughts and floods. A combination of changes in precipitation and weather patterns brings out droughts in one sector and great floods in neighboring areas. B. Shrinking of lakes. A decrease in precipitation causes lakes to decrease in size. C. Desertification. Millions of square kilometers of once agricultural lands becomes barren. D. Shortage of food and water. Agricultural output in many regions of the world becomes scarce because of drought, desertification, heat waves, wildfires, and changes in precipitation. Also, freshwater supplies are decreasing due to melting of glaciers, the shrinking of lakes, and the water contamination. E. Extinction of species. Mass extinction of species is one of the most troubling effects of climate change. Humans have the technology to help us adapt to drastic changes in weather patterns, but animals could not adapt to it. Ocean acidification. The increasing pH of oceans due to carbon dioxide will affect marine life at the bottom of the food chain. As a result, the entire food chain is being affected and eventually land animals that are dependent on fish will suffer as well. Melting glaciers and polar ice caps. The polar ice caps and glaciers around the world play an essential role in regulating temperature by not only absorbing heat but also reflecting the sun's light. Moreover, glaciers play an integral role in forming the world's perennial rivers which are responsible for agriculture that much of the world population is dependent. The spread of disease and food poisoning. An increase in temperature will also spread malaria, dengue, and fever as well as several other diseases. Moreover, it will increase salmonella outbreaks.
Mitigation and adaptation. There are two basic responses to address the potential harmful effects of climate change: mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation refers to an anthropogenic intervention to reduce the sources or enhance the sinks of greenhouse gases. Mitigation involves slowing down the rate at which greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere and reducing the magnitude of climate change. Some ways to alleviate the harmful effects of climate change includes the following: reducing fossil fuel use, promoting the use of renewable energy resources like geothermal energy, wind and solar energy, reducing deforestation, using more sustainable agriculture and forestry, putting a price on greenhouse emissions, slowing population growth, and focusing research and development on innovations that lower the cost of clean energy alternatives. The other approach is adaptation, which refers to an adjustment in natural or human systems in response to actual or expected climatic stimuli or their effects. It moderates harm or exploits beneficial opportunities. This means that adaptation involves anticipating the harmful effects of climate change that cannot be avoided and adjusting to these effects. Examples of adaptation measures include using scarce water resources more efficiently, developing drought-tolerant crops, choosing tree species and forestry practices that are less vulnerable to storms and fires, community-based disaster risk reduction, seasonal climate forecasting, rainwater harvesting, and capacity building through shoreline defense system design.
DIMSO Environmental Management Unit holds a webinar on local climate change mitigation and adaptation. DIMSO Environmental Management Unit, together with its partner organizations, conducted a webinar on local climate change mitigation and adaptation on July 30, 2021 in celebration of National Disaster Resilience Month 2021. The event aimed to enhance environmental education, particularly on local climate change mitigation and adaptation. Executive Order Number 29, signed on June 28, 2017, mandates the observance of National Disaster Resilience Month through the conduct of activities relative to building of disaster resilience covering the four thematic areas: prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and rehabilitation and recovery. Ms. Julieta B. Aparicio of LGU Lucena City discussed climate change and its impacts to environment and other sectors. She also discussed the international, national, and local frameworks and policies in addressing climate change. She emphasized the implementation of local initiatives on climate mitigation and adaptation. Ms. Florence Rolyoda, acting Menro of Bawang La Union, shared the Municipal Mangrove Eco Park project. She mentioned that with multi-sectoral engagement, the project significantly improved the mangrove ecosystem, resulting to increased fish catch, added protection from storm surge, and increased biodiversity, among others. Engineer Efren Gatchalian Jr., EMS1 of the City Enro, City of San Fernando, La Union, shared the city's environment and natural resources initiatives. He mentioned that the city is facilitating more projects to reduce carbon footprint by increasing vegetation, improvements in the solid waste management system, installation of solar lights, and promotion of bike use as green transport, among others. 100 participants joined in the webinar. For his part, Professor Celso Hucutan expressed his thanks to Tanggol Kalikasan, DIMSU Institute of Environmental Governance, and Institute of Environmental Studies, and the Young Earth Savers Society for their help in making the webinar possible. DIMSU celebrates National Zero Waste Month 2023. In celebration of National Zero Waste Month 2023, DIMSU, through the Institute of Environmental Studies Extension Unit in cooperation with the local government unit of Santo Tomas, La Union, conducted a learning session on ecological solid waste management and climate change at the Mortiz National High School on January 31, 2023. This learning session is part of the IES Extension Initiative Professor in Barangay Sustainable Waste Management through the Community-Based Engagement in Santo Tomas, La Union. The activity aimed to enhance awareness and action on ecological solid waste management as well as on climate change mitigation and adaptation. Mr. Celso Hucutan, IES Extension Facilitator, discussed the salient provisions of Republic Act No. 9003, otherwise known as the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of the Philippines. Proper waste management ensures the protection of public health and the environment. Thus, everyone is mandated to practice as a way of life waste avoidance, segregation at source, recycling, and composting, among other eco-friendly measures. More than 80 learners and faculty members of the Mortiz National High School actively participated in the event. Specifically, it was attended by the officers of Supreme Student Government, Campus Integrity Crusaders, Youth for Environment in School Organization BKD, and 31 homeroom presidents. Mrs. Cynthia Casaklang Mapalo, principal of the Mortiz National High School, gave the words of gratitude and challenged the youth leaders to become more responsible and to become an eco-leader. She further encouraged them to apply what they have learned. Mr. Hucutan and Mr. Roy Arongat, Municipal Environment and Natural Resources Officer of Santo Tomas, urged the school administration and faculty members and learners to move towards a sustainable and eco-friendly school. El Niño Resilience: increasing people's adaptability in the face of La Union's warming temperature. The threat of El Niño casts a long shadow over the whole of La Union. The weather phenomenon affects people's life and threatens their means of livelihood, which is evident in parched landscape and inconvenient heat index. Though the people of La Union have been enjoying the cool breeze brought by the amihan the past couple of weeks, it can temporarily make people forget that the effects of El Nino in the province keep on going. For more than 6 months, beginning in July, the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration has shown that the El Nino effect on people in the province will likely last until February, with its possible effects on water shortages affecting La Union and its agricultural economy. Resilience and adaptability. For Rizalina Gali, 66, a coffee vendor in Tubao Town Market in southern La Union, the rising temperature caused by the weather phenomenon has affected her sales, as fewer people have bought coffee from her over the past few weeks in favor of cold beverages to keep themselves cool under the sweltering heat of the sun. Gali says that she hopes the cool breeze experienced by her town early in the morning and late at night continues for the next few weeks and extends into the daylight hours to encourage more people to buy from her. Gali says, narigat tatate aglako, gamin ore na lamiis iti bigat, nabiit nga pumudot iti tiyempo, so nga basit matlang ti malako nga kapi tanabara nga rod. Basit ti malakwan ta sobra matbara na gamin. In English, it is hard to sell right now because even though the weather is cool in the early morning, it gets really hot fast, which lessens the chances of selling coffee. My income is low because the temperature right now is really high. The vendor says that she might shift to selling cold drinks in the coming days if the temperature stays high to earn more, but that it will entail purchasing additional items to start making refreshments, necessitating additional capital which she lacks as of the moment. Haan tayo mat mabaliwan iti tiyempo. Kasta nga talaga so nga iruwam tayo latta bagbagi tayon. In English, we cannot change the weather. All we can do is adapt ourselves to it. Gali adds, noting how people cannot control the weather but can adjust to the changing weather instead. For Lisa Hakla, a laundry woman from Agoo Town west of Tubao, the hot weather has been a boon for her livelihood, as the sweltering heat means more clothes are dried faster, and the more clothes dried, the better the chances of her earning more from clients needing her services. Hakla adds that nowadays, she can finish her laundry duties for at most 3 clients per day on weekends, up from just 1 to 2 clients from last year, boosting her earnings as a result. But even with the spike in her earnings, she worries how the extended time she is under the sun these days may affect her health moving forward, noting how the shearing heat causes her to tire faster and get exhausted more. Government intervention. Various government interventions have also been in place to mitigate the effects of the weather phenomenon, such as the Department of Social Welfare and Development's risk resiliency programs that aims to increase the resiliency of communities towards the effects of climate change. The RRP endeavors to create interventions to address water and food security, particularly its use of the project Local Adaptation to Water Access, which aims to create small farm reservoirs. These small farm reservoirs are to be used to store water which can then be used in times of water scarcity and drought. Henry J. Huino, Information Officer 2 of the DSWD 1st Disaster Response Management Division, says that the RRP shall be implemented in 3 phases to include beneficiaries undergoing a 3-day learning and development session to increase their understanding of climate change adaptation and mitigation. The second step includes the implementation of the project through a cash for work SIM for 15 days, involving the conduct of activities to increase water sources to a sufficient level and undertaking to address food security. The third and last step involves a sustainability strategy involving a 2-day training for beneficiaries on livelihood, maintenance and rehabilitation of the project and community organizing. The People's Resiliency in Region 1 and the government's initiative to help through the implementation of various programs and services to battle El Nino echo the hope that even with the unrelenting climates, the seeds of resilience and sustainability can thrive and take root. Provincial Government of La Union organizes LGU-GHG Workshop for Climate Change Mitigation. To capacitate the province of La Union regarding its greenhouse gas emissions, the Provincial Government of La Union, Environment and Natural Resources Office conducted a 2-day community-level greenhouse gas emissions inventory inception workshop on April 1 to 2, 2024 at the La Union Peace and Order and Safety Emergency Operations Center, Sevilla City of San Fernando, La Union. The activity was conducted in partnership with component local government units and the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives Southeast Asia. The inventory aims to comprehensively assess and quantify the emissions levels of greenhouse gases in the province of La Union in terms of stationary energy, transportation, solid waste, wastewater, industrial process and product use, agriculture, forestry, and other land use. It is crucial to understand the carbon footprint, identify emission sources, and formulate strategies to mitigate climate change impacts in the province of La Union. The consultant from International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives Southeast Asia discussed a wide array of topics that covered the area needed to successfully equip the participants with the knowledge to create a comprehensive report on GHG emissions and activity data. The discussion included the overview of climate change mitigation and community-level GHG emissions inventories for Philippine LGUs, identification of activity data requirements for stationary energy, transportation, solid waste, wastewater, industrial process and product use, agriculture, forestry, and other land use, mapping of activity data availability and sources, overview and guided navigation of the community-level GHG quantification spreadsheet, calculating GHG emissions from different sources using data, and sampling plan. Participants also presented their outputs to exhibit what they had learned from the workshop. As a way forward, PGLU and its component LGUs plan to integrate the learnings from the workshop into their individual environmental and sustainability plans targeting climate change mitigation to further improve their practices. With PGLU headed by Governor Rafael Veronica Rafi Ortega David, continuously advocating for kalikasan naman and its people participating through La Union Provincianihan, La Union clears its path towards being the heart of agritourism in Northern Luzon by 2025. La Union marks World Wetlands Day with tree planting. The provincial government of La Union, through its Provincial Government and Natural Resources Office, and in partnership with the municipal government of San Juan, marked this year's World's Wetlands Day celebration with a tree planting activity held at Barangay Santa Rosa in San Juan Town on February 1, 2024. The World Wetlands Day, which is anchored on the theme Wetlands and Human Well-Being, highlights how all aspects of human beings are tied to the world's wetlands, including the physical, mental, and environmental health. Some 200 bitaog seedlings were planted along the riverbank in coordination with the Philippine Coast Guard, Philippine National Police, Department of Education, private individuals, and local officials who also committed to monitor the seedlings they have planted. In his message, J.R. Rakendan of Penro La Union said the tree planting activity helps ensure the conservation and sustainable management of wetlands in the town. He also urged the public to continue taking part in the Province Bayanihan initiative in support of the PGLU's Kalikasan Naman campaign. World Wetlands Day is celebrated every second day of February to raise awareness of wetlands' vital role in biodiversity and humans.